So both Logan and I do write attendance.
Okay,
So
very good. All right. So now that we're recording, we call the meeting to order 6:33 and now 6:34 p.m. June 10th, 2024. We ask everyone to please mute your microphone unless you are speaking. Any guests in attendance, will you please introduce yourselves in the chat, listing your organizational affiliation, if any, and providing your contact information. To ensure that we have adequate time to hear from all commissioners, guests asked to are asked not to speak during the meeting, with the exception of invited guests. But you are welcome to add your thoughts and comments in the chat. Also, in that same vein, to the commissioners, I would like to make the soft request that we try to ask no more than 2 questions at a time per concern. And after your second question, will you please go to the end of the virtual queue to allow other commissioners to ask their questions, and then we'll get back to your questions and comments. But I'm hopeful that as we maximize input, we can maximize outcome. All right. With regards to our agenda, do we have any comments before we approve the agenda? If not, maybe we can do that by common consent. Any comments on the agenda? No corrections? Can we approve the agenda by common consent? Excuse me, the minutes. Any questions on the minutes from last week's meeting?
I move that we approve the minute unless somebody has some concerns about them.
All right, Mike.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve last meeting's minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carried. All right, so let's get back to our work plan. Give me a second to pull up the minutes because we had some conversations on our work plan. And so the action from the last meeting with regards to the work plan is that the work plan subcommittee would meet with Vice Chair Branson to discuss her other feedback on the work plan, and we'll also review the goals of the PAB, and Mr. Gonzalez would convey his feedback to the subcommittee. So do we have any updates on our work plan? Cherie, is your name pronounced Cherie or Sherry?
Cherie.
Cherie, okay, thank you.
So I appreciate that. Yeah, so we didn't actually meet. I did send them written comments. And I sent them to Eva because I did not want to run afoul of the how many people are talking together. And I'm sure she forwarded them. I did not hear back.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming that things were received and they met about them.
All right. Mike, were you leading that subcommittee?
No, but I did receive the email. I think Ava may have gotten that. She did forward it to all of us. And I really appreciate the feedback. And we went down the list. I think there were maybe 7 or 8, as I recall, points from the email.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those comments should now be reflected in the latest draft. I also had Francisco double check it. So I'm pretty confident that all of that feedback is now reflected in the latest draft.
All right. Is there any action to take place then concerning the work plan? Do we need to adopt it to approve it?
Did Mike say is included in the latest draft or is not yet included?
No, it's
included.
all the feedback we received has been included.
Thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to break in. Just wanted to clarify.
No,
that's
please break in. All right. So let me ask this question. Has everyone had a chance to review the updates to the work plan? Because am I on that email? I don't have an email from Eva.
Oh, no, you would have gotten it from Susan. It was attached. I think Susan forwarded it because I forwarded it to her a few days ago. So everybody should have gotten a copy of what was done.
Sure.
It's on your last weekly email, which I think I sent Sunday.
Okay, I do have it.
Okay.
All right, very
I can
good.
resend.
So I
It should,
do have it, and I
should be the version dated. I think it says 6/10/24 on the actual file name.
all right. And so do we want to approve the work plan? Do we want to take an action to do that?
I believe we would need to move to approve the work plan as a living document, subject to change by discretion of the commission.
Okay, Eva, I didn't hear that last part. Can you say it again? Can everyone mute if you're not speaking, please? All right.
Sure.
Eva, you have the floor. What were you saying?
So I believe we would need to move to adopt the work plan as a guiding document, but also as a living document to be modified at the discretion of the commission if that becomes necessary in the coming months or years.
Okay, are you making that motion?
Yes, I will make that motion.
All right, can we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, very good. Motion carried. Okay. We're moving stealthily ahead of our schedule tonight. Very good. So an annual report call for volunteers.
Yes.
Susan, do we have more information?
So Eva has submitted a section on the work plan, which might have to be updated a little bit due to the vote today. And Terry got back to me and volunteered to help in some way. So I don't know if she's still interested in helping with the annual report or not. I did send out a few sections to try to spur some interest. The other things would have to be any work that you do on the Freedom to Leave Act.
I'd be more interested in the annual report. As I read some of the reports in the dashboard, I think I'd be interested in working on some of that.
Okay, for the annual report, for the ACP's annual report, it's just a recounting of what you've done this year. And unfortunately, you've had a very abbreviated year. So
That may be a good thing then, right?
yes, it should. It's not going to be long. It doesn't need to be long. It doesn't have to be that detailed. And we can talk offline too if you want to figure out a particular section. Christie's
All right.
got her. I'm sorry.
When is the annual report due? Do you
July
remind
1st.
me? July 1st.
Mhm.
I'm happy to do a read through when, once Terry puts some stuff on paper.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Any other Cherie?
Yeah, I'm just trying to be clear on what will be in the annual report. I thought that I guess that's the first question, is because it seems to me we can just do like a running list almost, like, and sorry, that's my dog. He can he can be very loud. I'm going to another room. So we can do, if Susan and Logan give us a listings of the bills we've commented on, the meeting guests we've had, that, and any letters that we've sent, that pretty much, would cover it with the adoption of the work plan. And all you need is like a little preamble that says, here's our annual report. I mean, that's pretty much it. We don't need there doesn't need to be, I think sometimes this is made into a big deal. And all it needs to be is a synopsis of what we've done, because the stuff we've done is largely, if not entirely, on the website. So we just need to report to the council like, okay, here are the bills you all asked us to comment on. Here's the letters we wrote to you. Here are the meetings we've had. Here are the attached minutes. And that's something that Susan and Logan can I'm sure easily get to us, because they are sort of the keepers of those things. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, if anybody believes we need more than that in the annual report, I guess now's the time to say so. But I don't know what that would be, quite frankly.
I think this would be, if Reverend Bellamy's up for it, I do think that a synopsis of your participation in the community meet and greet with the chief candidate would be helpful to include.
We can include that. What are your thoughts on that, Cherie? And then we'll
Yeah,
go
I think that's fine. I mean, that comes in, in line with the meetings we've had,
Right.
And I think, I went as an NAACP representative, so
Right.
I'm pretty sure that I took some notes that I'd be happy to share with you, because I've already reported, back to the NAACP about that. So,
Right.
you could, put some stuff on there, and we call that a day.
Okay. Who was first between Francisco and Eva? I'm sorry. Well, Francisco, will you go, and then Eva?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do something, a synopsis on the correspondence and the briefings.
Okay. All right, Eva.
Yeah, I think the one thing, two things maybe that are not covered on the website are, sort of the thought process behind what it is we've done,
Mm-hmm.
and more of an explanation of the goals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wrote the work plan section the way that I did,
Mm-hmm.
is I wanted to include the thought process behind it so that folks can see what the values of the commission are, what the people on the commission are like, so that we can really be transparent with the public, not just to say, here's what we've done, but here's why we've done it and how we've done it.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree that this doesn't need to be a huge thing, but providing brief explanations and context from our perspectives in our own words for everything that we've done, I think would be helpful.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts on this? Oh, Terry.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing people saying, we don't have to, this doesn't have to be real in-depth like an encyclopedia, but at the same time, it should follow the structure of the previous reports to work with Francisco as well as Eva on getting some of those highlights, as well as Sherry with regards to meeting the chief. So I'd be glad to kind of pull that together and reach out to individuals as we go forward. I've seen some of the reports, and I agree with you. We don't need to be too detailed with it, but I think that we should hit high level so that everybody can kind of know what we're doing.
So it sounds like we're establishing a subcommittee, and Terry, you are volunteering to pull everything together, or am I volunteering you?
I said I could write. That's when Susan asked, so that's kind of both. So I'm happy.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so that'll be great. So Terry and Francisco and Eva, and we'll come together as a subcommittee. Anyone else want to be a part of this for our annual report? And Mike, yes.
I can help with that. I think Susan had on her list maybe the summary of the information requests that we sent to the department and any responses we got back. And I pretty much, I think, have that almost written up. And a couple other things. So I'd be glad to help out with that.
Perfect. All right. Eva, is your hand up from before, or do you have a new comment?
Sorry, that's my bad.
All right, no worries. Will someone keep me abreast of the chat in case we need to pause and go back to it? Because I will keep going otherwise. All right. So let's move on to the next agenda item if we are clear of the annual report. So we have the police traffic stops and consent search of motor vehicle and data collection for the Freedom to Leave Act. We were anticipating Council Member Will Jawando being with us today. He is unable to be with us today, nor could we get a representative. So it appears that the July 8th date, which I guess is our next meeting, will work for him. Hopefully that will work for him or at least a representative. But in the meantime, we can do two things. We can have our own brief discussion tonight since we have a little time in the agenda. But I think it would be great if we leave with a subcommittee that's prepared to really go through the Freedom to Leave Act in preparation, and prepare some questions or highlight some information for us in anticipation of the July 8th meeting. So does anyone want to get the ball rolling with that? Any thoughts on the Freedom to Leave Act that we need to be on the lookout for or to discuss in preparation for when we can meet with Council Member Jawando? All right. Terry, were you first, then Eva?
I don't know, since
Okay.
it's like Jeopardy. I'm not sure who called it first. So I just want to say this in reading it, again, being a novice, I think it's, we need to be clear on how the public is going to be informed.
Hmm.
I'm even thinking to myself, if I got pulled over, how would I know that this is even out there right now? As well as how is this going to be easily reported on the dashboard for the public? And I'm not volunteering to be in charge of it because I got the annual report now, but those were the two immediate things that came to mind. I appreciate it. I think the concept is good, but those were the two things that came to my mind. Thank you.
Absolutely. Eva?
I think something we really need to remember as we're having this policy discussion and preparing to make recommendations to the council is what the data tells us. From what I could tell from the testimonies at the meeting, there was a lot of fear among folks who thought that this would cause a rise in crime rates. There was a lot of misconceptions around what it is that the bill does. And so I think we need to be very clear on what types of searches the bill is seeking to eliminate and what the efficacy or, in this case, inefficacy of those searches are. We can also talk about how consent searches are or are not an effective tool of policing in itself. What the research says about the legitimacy of consent given in consent searches. What is it that a consent search even means? There are a lot of nuances to this issue that I think, especially detractors of this bill, do not take into account. And so I just, I'm happy to explain scientific jargon to anyone. I am a chemistry degree holder. So I'm just really urging us to keep the research and the data in mind as we investigate this piece of legislation. And I also do think it would be a great idea to have a subcommittee craft questions and or recommendations for the council member.
Sure. All right. Others? Francisco?
Yes,
Terry?
sort of I have a question, and this is, so ultimately, I presume that the objective of our research and discussion is to come up with suggestions, recommendations, advice, not necessarily to endorse or reject the legislation. Am I correct?
You can say whatever you would like to, and I'm happy to forward some of the recommendations that the prior Policing Advisory Commission had sent the council on different legislation if you'd like. But you can, like, the bill that preceded this that has been withdrawn was the STEP Act, and that included limitations on stopping people for certain minor traffic offenses, as well as this consent search ban that was ruled by the state attorney general that they can't supersede state law on the stops, but that a consent search would be legal. The Policing Advisory Commission, in their recommendations, though, wanted to have at least some limited ability to have a consent search, and thought that this might be necessary, I believe, for police officer safety. And actually, I think that was the biggest reason they did that, and I'm happy to forward that to you. So you can do whatever you want. You can recommend they pass it. You can recommend amendments. You can recommend against it. So it's really up to you.
Thank you.
All right. Cherie?
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say what Susan just said, that, you know, the whole goal of legislation, I mean, this has, you know, it's helpful to remember that the council amends legislation in work sessions. And so, whatever we put forward, if we make suggestions, you know, hopefully would be considered in those work sessions. And if we do, you know, I've never seen a bill ever that doesn't get amended at some point, right? So I think our goal now has to be, okay, this is what this bill says. This is, and this is our consensus opinion on whether we believe this would be helpful to the community and to the officers. That's really, you know, and we don't have to have an opinion, quote unquote. You know, it is quite okay for us to say, okay, here are the issues we see. These are the issues that the council may want to address moving forward. And it can be totally outside the box. You know, I mean, I don't know if, I don't remember actually, if the Freedom to Leave Act contains a piece requiring a public service, you know, public information campaign, right? But we can, if we come to believe that that would be helpful, we can suggest that. We can go all outside the box everywhere, you know. That's a part of what we can do. So I just wanted, you know, to get clarity. I wanted to make sure everybody was clear, you know, on that.
So is the idea that we would have some kind of consensus?
Consensus is not required, but it's good to be able to say that this is what the commission thinks. And I think in the past there was something, maybe the school resource officer thing, I don't remember, that we were not able to, you know, decide as a unanimously that whatever it was that we agreed with, right? And so I think the people who dissented, we allowed a space for them to say, why they did not agree. So this is like as with everything, consensus is best, but it's not always achievable on every little thing.
Right, right. Because I'm just wondering about the mechanics of getting to the point where we're making recommendations, right? So I guess our recommendations will be informed by our meeting, well, our research leading up to it in the subcommittee, but then also our meeting with Councilman Juwando, and then we would make recommendations. Is that the process that everyone else has in mind?
I think that would be a good process, and I think it would be really good that if we have concerns, if the research or people's individual um 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 issues, if people see individual issues that they believe other people may have, as Eva mentioned, what she heard in the testimony and what I heard too, quite frankly, was a lot of fear about crime, and so so we wanted to ask council member Juwando, what do you, what is it you would say to someone who says, we're afraid the police can't do this. It would lead to an increase of crime or drug trafficking or gun running or whatever it is. That we should give him the opportunity to say whatever he has to say. I think it's probably in the staff report on the bill. Hopefully people have that. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the purpose of us, because then, given that we have done the research at that point, we can have an opinion about that, or we can say, it's not clear whether this will help or hurt. We don't know. But we think the council should keep in mind that if this happens, if X happens, then any bill can always be repealed. I mean, that's we can say that kind of stuff too.
Right. Okay. All right. Anyone else want to chime in? Susan, this legislation is so important, and I was hoping that we could have met with Councilman Juwando, and I'm aware that he feels, or whoever his representative is, feels that July 8th will be best. But it's striking to me that not even a staff member or representative was available to come to the meeting. Do you know what's going on there?
I mean, I can't speak for their office. I did try
Okay.
several times to make that happen and was unfortunately unsuccessful.
All right. So I'm very hopeful that that he will come, or that we'll at least have good representation that can speak authoritatively about, Freedom to Leave Act when we meet next month. All right. So we need a subcommittee. That's our favorite activity, right? Putting together subcommittees. And so is there anyone here who has not yet served on a subcommittee that we can? All right, so Mr. Stevenson, since you raised your hand, will you lead that subcommittee? Are you open to that?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Leading, I don't know about.
Okay.
I'm great leading, but I want to make sure I lead properly with some understanding. So I would love to follow Eva if she's available.
All right.
I would be happy to lead that subcommittee.
Very, very good. We'll appoint Eva. I just didn't want to put too much weight on you because we are leaning on you with some of the others. But if you're willing to do it, then that's great.
I am happy to lead that subcommittee. Yes.
All right,
And
perfect.
I'm very much
Thank
happy
you, Mr.
to
Stevenson.
assist.
All right, so we have Eva, we have John. Can we get a couple more? Mike, thanks, Mike. Anyone else? Cherie, perfect. All right, Francisco. Now, The purpose of the subcommittee is that it's not the whole committee. Christina, you're on. Anyone else? All right. Is Logan on? Are you recording that? Who's on the subcommittee again, just so that we can see the full committee?
I
mean, it's-
have Mr. Stevenson, Mr. Donahue, Vice Chair Branson, Mr. Gonzalez, and Ms. Quitman, and then Ms. Delane as well.
All right, very good. Anyone else? Are we good to go? And so this committee then is charged to research the Freedom to Leave Act and to highlight for us any particular concerns or questions. And to please, will you please submit those to Susan ahead of our July meeting so that we'll have a chance to review them. And we are very hopeful that Councilman Jawando will join us. If not, his first deputy or authoritative or staff member who can authoritatively speak to the legislation so that we can then address our questions or concerns in preparation to submit a write-up. All right. Are we clear with our actions to move forward with regards to the Freedom to Leave Act? All right. So next on the agenda is new business. Is there any new business? Is there anything that we need to discuss? The floor is open. Cherie?
Hi, sorry, something just went down the wrong way. I'm sorry, I joined a little late, so I don't know if y'all already covered it, but I think the confirmation vote for Mr. Yamada is tomorrow, right? Tomorrow morning? Susan, is that right?
Yes, 9:35.
And so, you know, I think it would be helpful, you know, if people were interested to either be there in person, and you could always be there virtually. I mean, all this stuff is all televised. But yeah, I just thought it would be good for people to take note of that. I know a few groups have sent a letter to the council expressing their concerns about what is he, assistant chief now? Assistant Chief Yamada becoming Chief Yamada. So you might want to, you know, people might want to take note of that letter. It's probably floating around somewhere. Susan, could you get people that letter?
Sure.
Okay.
All
So,
right.
so
Yeah.
tomorrow at 9:35
Mhm.
in the council building, third floor.
Yes.
Cherie, since we are in the, would it be appropriate to, Susan, would it be appropriate for her to summarize the concerns in this meeting? I know it's a public meeting.
It's not, it would be okay. The problem is, it's been, I saw the letter before it went out. And so I can't really tell you exactly what, you know,
Okay.
I just don't recall well enough to do justice to people's concerns.
Right.
And it's not, you know, since, you know, wearing my NAACP hat, we did not sign on to the letter, had nothing to do with the message of the letter, had more to do with our process. And we were kind of inundated. So yeah, so I wouldn't, it wouldn't be appropriate because you know, I just couldn't do justice to what the concerns were, but I think it is worth people knowing about.
Okay, very good. Francisco and then Christy.
Yes, in terms of new business, I'd like to note that in early March.
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry, Francisco. I'm very sorry. Is there any other comment
Yeah,
on the appointment of the, is that you,
Mine
Christy?
was just a quick question.
Okay,
Who
we'll
is
come
the
back to you,
letter-
Francisco. I'm sorry, we're gonna stay on this matter until we're done with it. Christy?
Yeah, I was just wondering, who is the letter from? You mentioned this letter, but I just wonder what group generally.
Yeah, it's from several groups. It's And see, I don't remember all of them, but I know it's Jews for Justice, and I think they're on this, I think they're on this meeting. I think also Silver Spring Justice Coalition, they usually send a representative. I haven't really looked at who all the participants are today.
Christy,
I
have you sent
think-
this letter? Because if we have until 8 o'clock, I want to see this letter before we adjourn.
Yeah, here it is. Somebody just put it in the chat. Thank
I
you.
meant Susan. I
Racial
said
Justice
Christy.
Now. And I think Young People for Progress, at least initially was, I thought they were on the letter, but I'm not 100% certain. I thought I saw their name.
So I
So,
said, Heidi Rhodes, will you please post, whoever has it, will you please post it? Okay, Susan's gonna email it as well.
Maybe, if anyone is willing, if any of the representative organizations are on, if they could take 2 minutes to summarize their concerns, maybe we have time for that.
If everyone is okay, so we start out telling visitors that they cannot speak in the interest of time, but if everyone is okay with it, I'm okay with it. Is everyone in agreement to have Heidi share what's going on? All right, just give me a thumbs up real quick so that it's not me making the action. All right, Heidi, are you there? Can you come on, please?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I was trying to, it keeps telling me the letter's too long to post in the chat, so I was trying to put it in a PDF or something to post. In addition to what Sherry was saying about the process, we shared the concerns with the lack of real community input. The other concerns were that in the session that these groups met with Assistant Chief Yamada, he seemed to be falling back on old ways of doing things. Like he mentioned, he wanted to bring back the DARE program. He thought he was following the one bad apple kind of philosophy about policing. He didn't comment, he refused to comment on the poor racial score and the issues that have been raised many times about the racial disparity in policing in Montgomery County. He seemed to not really believe that it was there. When it was brought up about the fact that the chief executive wants to rely more on mental health professionals rather than police, he kind of was like saying, well, I guess if he wants that, we could do it, but I don't think it's really what should be done. He just seemed like it was more to, and I'm really summarizing here. I will keep working after I mute again to get the full text of the letter to you. But it was, he's more old school than these groups would like, rather than the trend in policing to look towards different ways of engaging with the community and different ways of doing things to deal with the racial disparities in our county. Hope that helps.
That does, thank you. And so, Cherie, what is happening tomorrow again? Is he being like installed?
Sorry, tomorrow is the sorry, I had pushing all the buttons. Tomorrow is the vote for the confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's always I don't know if there's a way to, you know, if people have strong concerns, there's probably no way to express them, you know, tomorrow.
Right.
And that's why I'm you know, sometimes council members, excuse me, will say things from the dais that are, you know, instructive, that you know, indicate that they have heard the community or whatever. I mean, so, you know, that's kind of a reason to be in the room. But as far as affecting outcome, I'm sure they've counted the votes and the outcome is probably pretty certain at this point.
Wow. I was a bit startled, I'm going to tell you the truth, when you told me that the vote was taking place tomorrow, because I was under the impression that the meeting that we attended was just like a phase one, and then there would be community meetings. I didn't realize we were going to move quite this fast. All right.
There was a meeting, okay, the meeting that we attended, I believe was on a Tuesday. And I think there was another meeting the following Thursday,
Correct.
with several other groups, and that's where I think Jews for Justice and the other many of the groups that signed on to the letter. I think that's when they had a meeting. But as far as a big community, town hall kind of meeting,
Right.
no, that did not occur.
Right. But were we not told that? I was under the impression that that would take place.
Well, that's what we asked for in our letter. I don't want to,
Yeah.
I don't want to assume, but as far as I know, I don't believe we've gotten a written response to the letter. I took the scheduling of the meetings as a response of a kind. But
right.
I do not believe we as a commission received a written response from the county executive.
Francisco, thank you for your patience. I just want to check in with Mike. Mike, is your comment on this matter?
Yes, but I'll defer to Francisco first. Thank you.
Well, he has a different matter to raise. Yeah.
Good. So, yeah, and I share a lot of the concern about the process. Not only did we not get a response to our letter, I think maybe one of the reasons we didn't, of course, I don't know for sure, was because this process has started long before we were given an opportunity to, I think, provide the input that we would want. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's been an open process. I think it's been very tightly controlled by the county executive, too tightly controlled, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Normally, for a position of a chief executive for a department like Montgomery County, mm-hmm. 1,900 employees, $300 million budget. It's a huge, huge organization. Mm-hmm. Normally, you would expect people to have qualifications that I don't see reflected on AC Yamada's resume. For example, a graduate of the FBI National Academy would almost virtually be a minimum for anybody taking on the reins of a department this size. Mm-hmm. So it's not to say that he may not be able to tackle it. I just think that when you're looking for what I'll call transformative change in culture, mm-hmm. in a different way of doing business, I don't think you can expect that to happen when the individual you're selecting for the position has been part of that existing culture for almost 4 decades. Right. Maybe I'll have an epiphany. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd like to think I'm wrong, but I just think that we're looking at a missed opportunity to really affect change that's needed for the benefit of everybody in Montgomery County. And I just wanted to say that because I think it's very, very important to remember kind of how we got here. It may be the reason we're not getting a lot of what we would consider input, necessary input, opportunities for input, I think may be detrimental to this process.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Anyone else on this subject before we go to Francisco? Okay, Mr. Stevenson.
Yes, I want to thank Heidi for speaking, giving us some greater insight.
John, you're frozen.
For lack of better words, old school.
John, can you repeat that? You were frozen a bit for a bit. We last heard you thank Heidi for her comments. What did you say?
All right. Am I a little more stable now? You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. I just thank Heidi because I think some of the things based on the generation that we're dealing with, the DARE program was good back when I was in high school, I think it was. And so if we're not looking at a more modern way of approaching some of the issues that we're facing with crime, especially with our youth, I think we're going to be behind the gun. And so my question is, if we're not able to express anything tomorrow I saw that Susan put tomorrow interview. I'm a little confused what tomorrow is. Is it an interview or is it a confirmation? What is tomorrow? And if it's not a confirmation tomorrow, is there an opportunity for a group or this group to put together a town hall ourselves where we kind of force the hand of, okay, we've got this many people coming to hear from our council, our potential new chief, where he can't ignore it and has to make an.
Did John freeze again?
Get a voice
John?
in here.
Okay, I think we heard that you froze for like 5 seconds. I think we have the gist of your concern. All right. Anybody want to respond to John?
Yeah, it's my understanding that tomorrow's supposed to be the confirmation vote. Susan, you know, is over there.
Cherie, she's saying that's not the case. That's not the case, Susan?
Okay.
So tomorrow's just the interview. The confirmation will be at a later date, but I don't know the date yet. And it's generally a week later. So I don't know if you'd have time to put together any type of public town hall. I can.
Oh, so if
Who's
tomorrow is
interviewing?
just the interview.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, Terry, then Cherie.
Who is the interview with?
The council.
The council.
Yes, the executive nominates and then the council confirms.
Has the process been published?
Yes. It was just published Thursday though, so
Okay.
it's,
Okay.
yeah.
So there was no room to really to vet or critique it. All right, Cherie.
Yeah, I want to thank Susan for that clarification because I thought tomorrow was going to be the vote. So it's even more important if people are able to, I'm retired. I can go out there tomorrow morning, but I understand most other people are not in that situation. So, it is on channel 6, I think it is. And you can and they have the streaming thing. So if people are, really interested, I would, if you work in a situation where you could do that for probably an hour or so, I would strongly urge people to at least be witnesses to this event.
Okay. Thank you, Cherie. Francisco, thank you for your patience.
Not at all. I second. I'm really surprised that the process has gone so far without us having an opportunity to weigh in or to comment. And my disappointment is also that, as well as the fact that we as a commission were not aware of concerns that members and groups in the community had about this nomination. And, thank you very much, Heidi, for informing us of sharing those concerns with us. And I really appreciate it. I think that's very helpful. And I don't know what we can do now about it, but I'll certainly read the letter and then maybe, and I'll take it from there. But not totally unrelated to this is the fact that in March, we discussed the possibility of holding regular meetings to get direct feedback from the community. And in his May 9th letter, the commission to the commission, the city council also reiterated the importance of proactively seeking out community input. I think we need to revisit that process and take up Ms. Farag's offer to coordinate with the Regional Services Center for meetings, community meetings in different parts of the county, throughout the county. I think it's very important.
Absolutely. So on that, Susan, so you say the process to hire a new chief was published Thursday. Where can we find that? Is
I
there
just-
is there a timeline that is a part of it?
So it's not really published that way. It is a typical procedure that the council follows. So I guess we've probably not made it as clear
Mm-hmm.
as would be helpful. Although we typically interview candidates for appointments and then hold the confirmation at a later date, typically the week after. Most of the public outreach and input process is for these types of appointments is generally done on the county executive side.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of it, but I will try and our publication for Open Meetings Act requirements is in compliance, but our publication of the council agendas seems to be pretty late in the process. And I will try to see if I can pin down more information on dates for the confirmation.
All right, thank you. But going back to you, Francisco, would you recommend that, as a commission that we schedule to hold some meetings in the community?
Yes, not necessarily related to this very specific issue, mind you.
Yes.
But on all policing and public safety issues,
Mhm.
and that we do it ideally systematically, so we cover all of the principal districts in the county. And it's some of the members of the commission who have served before have very good experience on what works and what doesn't work. And I remember one of the comments was that Mondays may not necessarily be the best time to hold these meetings. I'm just really interested in getting direct feedback from the community on all of these issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I think that will be great. I think that will add some power to our impact, so that when we do check in with the police administration, with the county, we can do so with the feedback of the community. It sounds like this is also going to be another subcommittee, because this is going to be an ongoing project to arrange and find locations, et cetera, because we're talking about in-person meetings. Is that correct? Right. And so should we move forward with establishing a subcommittee so I guess the task would be to find places, to find the right areas in each district, to make sure that we are evenly distributed, to make sure that we choose good times of the schedule or on the calendar to have these meetings. Would anyone like to volunteer for that subcommittee? Terry, are you volunteering, or do you have a thought?
No, I'm not volunteering. Okay, just want to make that clear.
Okay.
I'm just going what Francisco said, any lessons learned from previous members, so that we can just do the best that we can. I think we talked about this in the beginning when we met, that we want to have a cadence maybe once a quarter to go out in the community. So have you tried this before? Did it work? Did it not work? I'm open to what you guys here did in the past.
Previous members, will you have some input here?
Yeah. So first of all, I just got an email. I just got a text from somebody, Susan, that says they're in the waiting room. So can you check the waiting room? Because it might be at least one person in there
Okay.
waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The answer is no. We didn't do in person, because you got to remember, COVID. And so we did have I want to say we tried to have, I think we had like one town hall or something. But I think it may have been virtual.
It was virtual,
Yeah,
yes.
and it wasn't very well attended. The part of our sort of ongoing stuff was in doing the press, the outreach to make these town hall meetings meaningful and accessible. Because I think people are interested, but the word just doesn't get out. I mean, so I would suggest that we use the regional service centers. We plan one a quarter, one per quarter. And then, we book the dates and start, put it on our website and then start sharing it. I mean, what was happening before is that there really wasn't what I thought was sufficient outreach. What was happening was, mostly individual commissioners were trying to reach out to people, and that still may be where we are, but the county has a rather sophisticated press operation, and we can definitely make use of that if we actually, plan it out, and now that, I think we're all fairly safe from COVID, knock on wood. I think we can achieve that now.
Cherie, would you be willing to, since as you mentioned to us earlier, you are retired, would you be willing to lead us?
And I work for free a lot, apparently.
Okay.
I just did a housing fair on Saturday.
So, did you?
Well, through the NAACP. But yeah, no, I'm happy to try and put together. Sorry, I'm happy to try and put something together.
But let some people, let some of us newbies work with you so we can
let's
learn.
make this generational sharing.
Would any of you like to be on that committee and work with Cherie to plan that out? Okay, so we got Francisco. We need at least one more. And,
I put it in the chat. And I think one of the things that we should probably discuss is whether any of these are in lieu of our regular meetings, or are they our regular meetings in the public? Like, how are they scoped, and how does it fit in with the rest of our work?
Okay, so before we go there, Logan, John raised his hand to be a part of the committee, and so did Terry. Let's come back to Christy's question, and then we have Christina with her hand up. So will these meetings, Cherie, take place during our meeting, or do you want to come back with the recommendation?
Here's the thing. We are only obligated to meet, I want to say 4 times a year or something. And the Monday date is what we as a commission have decided on. And so if we wanted to sort of switch out, if you will, those town hall type meetings for our regular meeting, we certainly could, because we're above, we are overachieving when we do monthly meetings anyway.
Okay.
And then I want to be respectful of people's times, because other people have jobs and kids and a whole bunch of stuff they got to do. I ain't got to do none of that. So but if people are committing to once a month already, then I wouldn't want to add 4 more days on folks.
I agree with that. This is a very involved group, and so if we could stick with Monday, that may be ideal, unless anyone passionately feels opposite. We are willing to hear you out. Christina. Oh, I'm sorry. Who was that?
I was just going to say, since I asked the question, I would advocate for swapping out a few of the regular meetings for in-person meetings out in the location, in which time we can think about the form and the format, but you could do it in such a way where we cover some regular business. These are public meetings anyway, and also allow some time for community discussion and input. And that's what I would recommend. Like, that's what I had done on a previous county committee that I chaired. And so it seemed to work out well. That was pre-COVID. Now that we're out of COVID, I think that might be a good approach.
I like that as well, Christy. Can we add you on to that subcommittee?
I actually already volunteered.
Oh,
You just
okay.
missed it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Christina?
I was just volunteering to be part of that committee as well.
Okay, excellent. All right, any other new business? Mike and then Francisco?
Thank you very much. I'll try and be brief, and some of this will be captured in the annual report write-up, but I just wanted to let everybody know we had requested, excuse me, from the department information request. You recall the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force recommendations and ELE 4A audit findings, the dashboard that had hundreds of recommendations that were made and audit findings. The response we got back from the department to our request was basically a non-response, and they simply referred us back to the 400 lines of information on the dashboard. So there is no plan apparently to address priorities of any of those recommendations that are listed on the debt, which is to me very concerning, to say the least. The other thing I want to bring up, I don't know if anybody had a chance to sit in and, on the budget hearings. I wasn't able to sit in and view all of them, but the ones that I did, I just want to commend Susan for her obvious being well prepared. Actually, more so, I felt, in the leadership of the department. Her answers to questions to me seemed to me anyway much more direct and made sense than some of the responses from the department, which again is also concerning to me. And Susan, I just want to ask a question. I didn't hear any mention of the how the department's doing in the FY24 budget now that it's getting toward the year end. Is everything in place for them to launch into FY25?
So, I was looking into that, and I don't have anything that I can share publicly. There are ways that they can address any problems that they might have in funding in FY24. The charter allows them to switch up to 10% of their personnel expenses to operating expenses and vice versa. They would have to ask permission from the Office of Management and Budget to do that, and the Office of Management and Budget would approve or disapprove that request. In terms of what their year-end expenditures will be, we will not know that until probably November, when the county as a whole reconciles all of its accounts. And we do end-of-year transfers. That'll be done in December. I can put in a request for information to find out more, or I could at least find out when the first available public information will be provided and get that to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. The other thing I didn't hear mentioned at all during any of the budget hearings was any of the requests from the department that were tied to any planning document. The last department strategic plan that I know of covered FY16 to FY20, which I think means that the department has not been operating under any strategic plan for the last 4 years, which might account for, I think, some of the, I would say, non-responsives or answers to some questions that I don't really think were factual. Not having any of their budget requests for hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars actually, tied to any planning document, I don't think is common for agencies of that size to do. So I think, again, to me, it shows another huge failure in the planning process for the department, which I think should be matter of fact, it should have been a priority the last 4 years from the existing leadership, but apparently it was not. And Susan, the last thing I will send you, I'll just briefly mention what they are, but there's some more information requests that I think would be very helpful to inform us and hopefully inform the council at some point. I think you shared with us there were 2 Office of Inspector General reports that were submitted for audits of the department's management and budget division, I think, both of them, which identified some issues, bookkeeping issues and other issues. But most importantly, there was an issue involving misuse of grant funds, as I recall, apparently intentionally from the way I read it. I would like to see the department, if number one, ask them if they've responded to any of those OIG recommendations yet. And if they have, it'd be good, I think, to share that response with us. And if they haven't responded to it, I think maybe a representative from the department that could maybe attend one of our future meetings to brief us on what actions, if any, have been taken to address those failures. The second thing I think, and someone mentioned this already, is that during the budget hearings, there was a reference made to the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice score from the department, which apparently was 3 out of 11. I think it would be helpful for us to know from the department what plan they have to address those shortcomings, and when can we expect that number to change from 3 to something else to meet the goals that they're apparently required to meet. The third thing is, I think Susan shared a while back the annual pursuit report from the department on vehicular pursuits. I went back and just real quick did like a 5-year tally, and certainly over the last 3 years, we've seen a huge increase. I would like to know from the department if there are any plans underway to revise the vehicular pursuit policy, and if they have initiated a revision process, when did that process start, and what is the current status of it? The way I read the data is that's been a 157% increase in pursuits from 2021 to 2023, 40% of which have resulted in collisions involving both department and civilian vehicles, and suspect vehicles for that matter. So the current policy, I think, was last revised 15 years ago. And the way I read it really doesn't reflect best practices going forward that many other departments are taking with restricting the actual reasons people would, or officers would be authorized to pursue vehicles based on the risk to themselves and to the public. And the last thing I would like to see is the special weapon. Well, actually, Bill, I believe it's 4520, which is the data reporting requirement that the department has to submit annually. I believe it's by February 1st, a whole list of summary of data collection efforts that the council mandated. One of the things I'd be interested in seeing, and this is a requirement for any pointing of a service weapon, OC spray, or taser as a result of a call for service. I would like to see for the Special Weapons and Tactics team for the last 3 years, let's say 2021 year to date, I would like to know the number of responses they've made, call outs, any activation or response by the SWAT team, and how many reports they've submitted that involve pointing of weapons, OC spray, or tasers as required by by Bill 4520. And I lied, there's one more thing. One of the things that I think is really, really important, I see a consistent theme here with a lot of, I believe, what's really lack of progress on a lot of the reforms and other things that have been put forward by many different entities. The department established a professional accountability division a few years back, and their mission, the way I read it, is critical, especially not only for the department, the public, and I think a lot of the work we're doing. So what I would like to see is, and I don't know if I haven't seen this published, many departments do publish such a thing, is an annual report, if there is one, from the Professional Accountability Division documenting their work. They're finding the audits and inspections they conducted, what the results were, and what corrective actions they recommended to address any of those issues that they identified. I want that for, I think we would want that for FY24. And I would like to see their FY25 work plan, because I think as we move forward after July 1st and we're in a new fiscal year, not only do we want to kind of follow up on things we recommended currently, but I think moving forward, as more challenges arise, I think it'd be very helpful for us to know exactly what the department's, I would say the department's internal watchdog, if you will, has on their work plan and what they plan to do going forward in terms of their work for FY25. Thank you all very much. I know I tried to be as brief as I could. I appreciate it.
All right. Susan, do you have all that? Yes.
So I hope so, but that's what I was going to ask. If you guys vote to send these requests to the department, I'm going to need Mike to give me that list in writing again.
Yes, I will do that right after the meeting.
Because you're mentioning some stuff I don't know about too. So
Are you saying this requires an action?
I think for that much information, the commission's going to have to vote on it. That's going to be a big request.
Mike, do you have any of this typed up where you can cut it and paste it in the chat?
I don't have that right now.
I have a draft, if that's helpful. It's a little more paragraph form and it hasn't been revised, but I can share what I have.
That'd be good, Logan. I appreciate it. It's the 2 OIG reports involving the MCPD Management and Budget Division. That would be the first, and any follow-up the department has sent forward addressing those recommendations. That's the first ask.
All right, so he's posting some things here. Everyone, will you just take a brief look at it? We've heard the request, but let's just take a look at it so that we can take an action.
And Mike, if I got anything wrong here, please let me know.
Okay, I will. I think that looks pretty good. Good job. I appreciate it.
Mike, I'm with you, but I just have one question on number 4. What is prompting a concern for the revision of the vehicular pursuit policy? Have there been some issues?
Well, the issue I saw is that since 2021, there's been a 157% increase in pursuits. And you also, as a result, see increase in collisions, injuries. So obviously that kind of stuck out to me as you have many more pursuits being authorized, which I'm not sure why. So I think that, and you're looking at a policy that was last issued in 2009. Right. So what I would like to see is that what if those things are of a concern, have been a concern to the department, if someone's looking at those, if they have initiated a revision process, when was that? And what's the current status? And if they've started something, great. If they haven't started it, the question would be, well, why? Based on the increase in injuries, collisions, et cetera, that obviously result from a pursuit.
So Mike, with those years, you said 2021 to 2023, what first comes to mind is that there are probably a lot more people on the road in 2023 than 2021, right? Because of COVID. And so are those years broad enough to give us a good snapshot to say that there's a 157% increase? Like perhaps there is a 20% decrease from 2019, right? So do we need to broaden those years to get a fuller picture, or do you think that 2021 to 2023 would warrant just that data alone would warrant discussion for revision?
I think that it's a good point. I got to the 157 from just looking at 2021 to 2023. But I've done the calculation starting back to 2019 to get a 5-year analysis. So I would maybe, and that's a good point, maybe I would broaden the request to ask for 2019 to 2023. And because the last report, and all those annual reports are published. I obviously don't have the 2024 one yet. But I think that would give us a good 5-year. And then the same question is that based on that data, has the department initiated a revision process? And if so, when did it start and what's its current status?
Okay, excellent. Before we go any further or commit to an action, Francisco and Cherie have had their hands up for a long time. And I think there was one other person. Do you want to raise a question on this matter before we consider that it's a different matter? Cherie, is your question on this matter or comment?
Yeah. Susan mentioned a lot of things that will shake out to understand what the spending has actually been, for this fiscal year. And, one thing that wasn't mentioned that we should be thinking about is the procurements. Because the way the county does things basically is that, if the funds get, if the funds are appropriated, it has to be obligated, before the end of the fiscal year, right? So, having been procurement director, I can tell you that a lot of there are a lot of requests in the last month of the year. and it might, I don't know if we can, I just want people to understand that there's that one thing that sets out there, and it's the stuff that, and it's not just the police department, it's everybody, tries to spend money on, and tries to get obligated right quick in the last 30 to 45 days of the fiscal year. Anyway, so I would I would support Mike's request, but I don't think it should go to the police department, quite frankly. I think it should go to the county executive, because the county executive is the one, because it seems to me that there are a bunch of different things going on, right? So whether or not there's been a response to the IG's findings would probably come from, that response would probably be generated in part from the police department, but if it's about grant funds, it might also get generated by Office of Management and Budget and the finance department. I mean, so the whole the lack of a strategic plan, maybe, I don't know, maybe the other departments don't have strategic plans either, I don't know. So that, and if that's kind of fallen out of favor, then the county executive is the one who would need to say that. The racial and social justice score, which is really bad, that's issued by an office in the executive branch, right? So if there are recommendations about how that score can be improved, it would most likely come from that office and not the police department. So my only, what I'm trying to point out here is that I agree with everything Mike pointed out as, and when it comes to who establishes the priorities of what it is the police department is doing, that's a joint operation with the county executive and then the chief of police. So it is really, it just seems to me that this letter should actually be addressed to the county executive, because the answer to it really does involve several different departments. That's my thing. That's what I wanted to point out.
All right. Christina, is your question on this matter?
No, it's not.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else raise a question on this matter? And so for clarity, Ms. Sherry, are you recommending that all of the questions go to the county executive, or?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think, I think that would, and he can farm them out to whatever departments he wants, but I really do think that that it would be best to send it to the county executive and have him, determine who would best answer these questions.
All right. So Mike, these requests for information are coming from you, your recommendation on behalf of the group. What are your thoughts on that? Mike? Mike. Okay. Christy, do you want to weigh in on this matter?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that we put forward a motion to make the request, like formally put forward a motion to request of the county executive to ask for the items listed in Logan's write-up.
Of Mike's request. All right.
Yes.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I just want to amend that. I want to amend that after the second or before the second, in terms of a time frame.
All right, so say more. You want to give a time frame on how soon this would go forward, Susan?
The county government's required to answer your request for information within 30 days.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Do you rescind your amendment with that new information?
No,
Okay, so state your amendment clearly with the motion. Will you please restate it?
oh, I rescind my amendment, so we could go with Christie's motion then.
Oh, you said no. I asked if you.
Yeah, no, no, 30 days is fine. in my-
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I seconded.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we, as a commission, would send forward these requests for information to the county executive as recommended by Mike. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Christina, your hand's already up. You're saying aye. All right. Any opposed? No opposition. Okay, the motion is carried. All right. Thank you, Mike, for the recommendations. Request for information. We are now moving to Miss Francisco. Were you next, or Christina? I'm used to teams, and so I think.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
All right.
Christina, go ahead.
Okay, Christina.
Yes, thank you. This goes back a little bit to something you all were talking about, but I have a question regarding the confirmation of the police chief. And that question is, have there been any that anyone knows of, any protests or actions against the confirmation of the police chief? And has that ship sailed? Like, is it like too little too late? I just want to know like the truth of the matter. So we don't put forth energy towards something that's already been,
Sure.
determined. And then it also kind of will indicate the power or lack thereof that the people actually have in regards to this. So I guess the bottom line is, has that ship sailed, and did it sail without any opposition?
All right. So who would like to weigh in? First of all, there is opposition because we Heidi Rose, representing her organization, shared that. Were you a part of that? Were you in that part of the meeting, Christine? So that's opposition.
Yes, but I mean opposition in terms of like, I don't know what that looked like.
Yeah. Okay. Would anyone want to weigh in? I know Cherie, you brought that information to us, and Susan, you have some information.
I'm sorry, can I also add, and is it impactful? What I'm trying to figure out is, are we like on a treadmill, so to speak? Like, does it matter? Like, the things that Heidi pointed out are striking, right? Disturbing, okay? But yet we're going forward with this. So where's the power, so to speak, in the people? Was there any opportunity for the people to have that power illustrated? And did we miss it, or do we still have an opportunity to make and affect that change, as in what we can do would essentially have the power to say, never mind, we're not going to confirm this person. Is that a real possibility?
Right.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Cherie, do you want to speak to that?
And how can we make it so? Okay, thank you. Sorry.
So first of all, let me say that I misspoke. I was mistaken. The vote tomorrow will not be for the confirmation. It would just be the interview, right? So the vote for the confirmation, up or down, will occur. Susan said the custom is a week after the interview. So the answer to your question is no, it's not too late. Secondly, because these groups have expressed their concerns, I think if we share those concerns, then we should say so, and that is why, or if we think the concerns are, not necessarily something that we can agree with, we should say so. But we really won't know that unless, or it'll be difficult to determine that without actually witnessing the exchange that will occur tomorrow.
Mhm.
You know, like anything in the public realm, whether or not it's impactful depends on 55 different factors, only 2 of which you can probably see right now. You know, so I mean that's kind of the nature of this stuff, right? So so my you know, hopeful response is I think, you know, people you know, on this call should look and see for themselves, get whatever, you know, jot down whatever information they believe is helpful tomorrow, and then we figure it out from there. But yeah, the timeline for us to figure it out would be short, but we can all individually, not as a group, email the chair and you know, give him our impressions, you know, after we see this tomorrow. I think that would, you know, be worth doing. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Cherie. Christy, do you want to weigh in on this matter?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it seems to me that it's not too late right now, but after next week, it will be too late. And so that if people do see a concern and want to discuss it with the committee, it would be something that would require a special meeting with a quorum and quick action before next week, if that's something that people want to take up.
Right. And so I think that would involve those of you who could make it to the meeting tomorrow being in attendance. And then after witnessing whatever concerns there are, being able to state those concerns. Would we be able to do more than to submit a letter? Which is something.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we submit a letter, you know, if we have concerns and we decide as a body to submit a letter to the council, I think that is, you know, I think that's potentially impactful. I really do.
Who else is able to attend the meeting tomorrow? I have meetings all day at the church and offsite in the morning. Tuesday is my longest day. Is anyone else besides Cherie able to attend tomorrow?
Well, Cherie said a big maybe. I don't know if I'm going to be there in person. I'll definitely be. I will definitely be watching my television, but I'm going to try to actually get to the council building tomorrow. But it's a maybe.
So that's good. So it's on TV or virtual also. Is anyone able to watch it tomorrow?
I'll try.
Okay, Francisco, you'll try.
I can try and make it. I gotta make some moves. I could try.
All right.
I'll be able to do it.
So that's great.
And I will too. I'll be able to log on virtually.
So what I would ask is, please watch it. If you can email me by tomorrow evening, and then Susan, I'll double back to you if we have to have a call meeting to discuss a letter. We can do that, but it would have to be like very soon. So we would kind of have to move things around and make ourselves available well, I pray and hope that we have some passion behind this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The purpose of going to the meeting tomorrow, would someone represent the entire commission, and does the entire commission here feel the same as
John, you froze. John?
there? Or we
I'm
just
sorry, John, you froze. Can you repeat that, please? Oh boy. John?
hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I've got several folks tapping my internet. Please forgive me. Would the person going tomorrow represent all of us? are we saying we all feel the same about what was presented this evening?
No, I think I don't think it's a good idea for one person to go and represent. I think uh, uh in order to galvanize the group to come together and to call a meeting and then to put together a letter, for me, I would like to see at least 4 of you having the same very serious concerns about us moving forward. And then even with that, we would come together with whoever could come together in the group to discuss it and then try to formulate a letter. Okay. That is my, recommendation of a process. It doesn't have to go that way. But please share your thoughts. So again,
I agree with
Terry.
you.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
Makes sense.
All right. So for those of you who can go, please go tomorrow. If it's recorded, I can watch it myself later. Is it recorded? Okay. So if you can by tomorrow night, this time, even later, 9 or 10, shoot me an email if you have serious concerns. And if I'm hearing back from 4 or 5 of you, then I will get in touch with Susan to see how soon we could put together a call meeting. And the purpose of that meeting will only be putting together our letter to send to the council that next day. All right. Francisco, you had a new matter.
Yes, very cognizant of the time. I just want to put in for the record a request that the commission invite Assistant Chief William Parker Long of the Patrol Services Bureau to brief the commission on the 2023 crime statistics report. I think my focus here would be the victims and where crime has increased and decreased, and because I think that can be very informative for us. And as soon as that can be arranged, that would be great.
Okay. Do we need to take action on that recommendation? All right. So Francisco, do you want to represent that as a motion?
Sure. I move that the commission request or invite Assistant Chief Willie Parker Long of the Patrol Services Bureau to brief the commission on the 2023 crime statistics report.
All right. So let me just say, this is where I would say, are you ready for the question? But I have a question or a comment. It sounds like the July meeting is going to be loaded, especially if Council Member Jawando can come. So do we want to put this in the July meeting, or can it hold off until August?
As far as I'm concerned, it can hold off until August if we're loaded up.
So and I mean, that doesn't have to be a part of the action, Susan, but just for reference sake, because it looks like next month is going to be loaded. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Are you ready for the question? Or we need a second? I'm sorry. I'm tired. Is there a second for the motion?
Yeah, I second it.
Ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right. You guys are awesome. When we vote on something, we're all on the same page so far. All right. Any new business? Oh, Christina?
That was my vote.
Okay, very good. Any other new business going once?
I just have a
Okay,
quick
Terry?
comment.
Sure.
Mike, I want to say thank you so much for,
Christy, are you able to mute?
sorry. I just want to say,
Sorry
Mike,
about that.
no problem. Thank you for the information and the data kind of tied into what Francisco said. I think it's really important we get the strategic plan, because if we don't have the data, and even like I was saying with the traffic stops, it's all how they're going to report it and how it's going to be presented to us as well as the public. So it's really important we get that together. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Excellent. I agree. Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Christina?
Yes, this time for real.
Okay.
At the risk of being redundant, I just want to thank Heidi for her iteration and what she observed and was able to relay to us. It informed action in this group, and so your presence is invaluable and truly appreciated. Thank you.
All right. And Heidi did share in the chat with regards to our power to slow things down. The group shared the letter with the press as well. The council has turned down a CE nomination before, so it can do it again. All right. So please attend the meeting tomorrow, those of you who can, and get me your feedback as soon as you can. New business. Any other new business? Going once, twice. All right. Any comments or any announcements before we conclude? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn at 8:09 p.m.?
Motion to adjourn at 8:09 p.m.
I
Second.
second it.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn at 8:09 p.m. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
If anyone opposes, you
Aye.
want to do this thing out, but we're gonna go.
Hey, everybody, I'm a guest, but I have a question. I thought Will Jawando was going to be on tonight.
We
he
did too.
couldn't
so
make
it's-
it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you all discuss the bill, the Freedom to Leave Act?
Please, Carlene, please join us next month. We are anticipating that he or his representative will join us. And we have a subcommittee preparing to have a hearty discussion on that matter next month.
Okay. Thank you.
July 8th.
All right.
All right. Take care. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you.